Tubers, tubettes, and of course the crazy people. Well, now that I'm a married man, the topic comes up in my mind is should I or should I not take my now wife to America? What would be the pros? What would be the cons? Here's my take on it. Well, let's just dive into it, shall we? Question is, should I or should I not take my 4-year-long girlfriend, now 4-month-long wife, to America, and what would be the result or the consequences or the benefits or the downsides? For some reason, this month and part of last month, I've had a number of people on the channel that have done just that. They've been involved with either it's been a guy with a woman, or it's been women that have been on the channel talking about their relationship with their husband, their experiences in America, whether they preferred it there or they prefer it here, and all the topics were covered. There was one disaster amongst them, but the majority of the videos that I did had the proverbial happy ending. The man and the woman were still together, and they were just as happy today as they were when they first met. And I must say, I've also had a number of conversations in person with people about this topic, both husbands and wives, etc., where, again, the outcome was positive. So I will say that just in personal experience, in exchanges with other people, the positive experience far outweighed a negative one. Yet what I find fascinating is that whenever I've done a video or even just had a casual conversation with guys about this topic, what seems to pop up over and over and over again is this advice to me: don't take her to America, bro. She's going to change. It is not going to end well. And my natural response is, why? What will happen? And there's two major kind of categories that they tend to touch on. Number one is that she's going to get over there, and over a period of time, she's going to discover that there's much more opportunity for her to better deal you. She's going to be able to find a younger, richer, better looking, more socially elevated individual who will, just take grandpa here, push him off into the lane he belongs in, and sweep her off her feet and take her away. The comeback that I have for that is she doesn't need to go to America to make that happen. We've been together for, as I've said, 4.5 years. She has had any number of opportunities to do that. I've never been a control freak. I've never once grabbed her phone and checked it for messages or anything like that. I've always trusted her from day one, and she's yet to prove me wrong. She goes her way, I go my way. We're not glued together 24/7. I'm not insecure with my relationship with her. Over time, she became secure with me, not in the beginning. I must be honest. She really had her eye out on what I was doing and where I was going and who I was talking to. And that is tempered over the years as the element of trust has been proven over and over and over again. And so if May wanted to better deal me, she could do it right here. She's had, like I said, I guess I'm repeating myself, a zillion opportunities to do just that. And she's never once entertained the thought. In fact, I've kidded her. I said, you got 1,000 requests on your phone there from guys that want to meet you on your Facebook. 1,000, more than. Friend request, friend request, friend request. And I said, how come you never accept those? She's like, I don't want anything to do with them. It's not right. If they have a girlfriend and I know the girl, I'll accept her friend request, or a wife, I'll be friends with her. But I just don't think it's right that I'm on with this guy. And I actually have the same philosophy. If I'm friends with a guy named Bob and we're friends on Facebook and I know his wife is Betty, I don't add Betty as a friend before. I mean, I've talked to Bob. May talks to Betty. That's kind of the dynamic of that. So the whole better deal thing, I think, falls flat on its face. The second contention that is made is that once she gets to America, wow, she's going to get accustomed to that nicer lifestyle. Boy, good roads, better food, nicer places to live, easier shopping, cars that actually work, no jeepneys, all the hoo-ha that you have to put up with here is eliminated and replaced with a much nicer, shinier, well-polished machine that runs much more efficiently. There's no brownouts. There's no out of stock. You can go to one spot and get everything done, as opposed to humping all over town and usually more often than not being disappointed when you get home. Over there, you can knock it all out in half the time and park in one parking place and get anything from a haircut to groceries to your taxes done and never leave the shopping center. So yeah, I can see where that would be a big appeal. And a friend of mine pointed it out to me. He says, well, Paul, as a parallel to that, if you were living in, upper Montana and you were shoveling snow all winter, and one of your friends called you up and said, hey, I got this beach house in Malibu and I need a house sitter. Well, you want to come stay for free for the next 5 years? Man, I'd be on the next plane. You bet. I would much rather be in a beach house in Malibu than shoveling snow up there in Minnesota. And so it's just human nature that you're going to enjoy and appreciate what we would call the finer things in life. And I'm not talking about Gucci shoes and fur coats and bling bling and Beverly Hills stuff. I'm just talking about basic necessities: food, shelter, transportation. It's all smoother. It's all easier. It's much more attractive there than it is here. And so I do believe that being a human being and human nature being that it is, that yes, that would be a major attraction for her and would be probably the strongest draw for her to want to simply stay there, just because of that. And I wouldn't blame her, but I don't find that turning her into a feminist or losing her core values or her core principles. Every day since I've known this woman, it's 4.5 years, first thing she does in the morning, just a creature of habit, is make the bed. Before she does anything else, makes the bed, comes out, has coffee brings me a coffee. We chit chat. She gives me a kiss good morning every morning since the day one. And she leaves me to be, and then she comes in and she loves to do sweeping of the floor and just making it neat. Because she's a neat freak. So she likes everything to be in place and clean and pretty. And I don't see that dissipating or disappearing if we were to locate from a little sleepy little Dumagetti to wherever in America. As far as her ability to do more in America, that is definitely on the table. A woman over the age of 30 here in the Philippines is unemployable. They just don't hire them. And a woman any age, in America that has any kind of skill set whatsoever can get a gig, can get a job. Fortunately, I guess for me, is that I worked 30 some odd years, 35, at a job that I just was burnt out on. May worked 20 some odd years on a job that she totally burnt out on. Her and I are both have the same mindset that we have a total aversion to actual work. The last thing we want to do is have to get up and be somewhere and perform a task for somebody else for a paycheck. We would rather do without than to get that extra money to do whatever we think is important or we need to buy. So we're both still pretty much minimalist, and we tend to buy what we need as opposed to what we want. So yeah, she would get accustomed to that. But when I went to Thailand with May, over there it was a very similar circumstance. It was better infrastructure. It was high-speed internet. No such thing as a brownout ever occurred. The food was off the hook better. May absolutely, positively fell in love with it. She was able to escape a lot of the pressures of the Philippines as far as the chismis and the gossiping and all that nicky-nacky stuff that she abhors, and so do I, and it goes on. So she felt like a 500-pound weight had been lifted off of her back, and she was sold out and radical and wanted to stay there. And I said, well, would you like to live here, or would you like to live in the Philippines? And I said, or we could check out Kuala Lumpur, or we could check out Vietnam, or we still got places to explore. I said, you know, baby, we got other islands that we could look at in the Philippines that we might like. We recently just got back from Iloilo and Bacolod. And May looked me in the blues, and she said, you know what, honey, I just want to be wherever you are. If it's America, cool. If it's the Philippines, cool. If it's Bangkok or Phuket or Kuala Lumpur or wherever, as long as we're together, I'm happy. And to me, that just spoke volumes. Now, why do these guys that say don't take her come to that conclusion? I have a theory on that. And that theory is that, number one, they've been there, they've done that, and that was the result. They took the girl out of the province or out of the city over to their home country, we'll just call it America, and it was an absolute fail. She better dealed him. She got there. I think there's some dynamics behind that situation. It could be his fault. Maybe he was the big kahuna over here, and he was maybe a control freak, kept her on a short leash, made sure that she was always around, checked her phone all the time, was a jealous guy to begin with. So he had that power circle or that power base here that he knows he might lose when he takes her out of the country. Because here he's a big fish in a small pond, and over there he's a little guppy in a big ocean. So the dynamics change. There can be a basic insecurity in the relationship itself. Maybe there's been signs that she's discontent. Maybe there's been signs where even though he's trying to keep her on a short leash, she's not really behaving the same way she was when they first met. And he's picking up on those signals, so that's making him paranoid. Could be that he's just not that great a guy. Could be that he's rude to her, mistreats her, his hygiene could stand a little improvement. His demeanor, the tone of voice, lack of or demanding of too much affection, all these things will eventually just wear on her as it would any human. So she would find a way to escape, and she would take it. So the other dynamic behind that would be that perhaps he is a solid dude. He's a great guy, but his choice in women was a little flawed. And maybe he met someone that was not of that high of moral fiber or character. And she has been fooling around before him, and she's been fooling around during him, and will fool around after him. And that's just her characteristic. That's her character. And he has yet to pick up on that. And that's why that happened. I Googled some information. An American marriage is about 50-50, that it'll stay together. 50% divorce rate in America. And then I Googled infidelity. 72% of American men would have an affair and fool around on their wife if they felt they could get away with it. What really blew my mind was 68% of American women would do the exact same thing. If they thought they could get away with it, they would. And so, to me, that just speaks volumes that that marriage is lacking a lot, because the male is possibly like the one that I just described, or he's just a total rollover beta type. And the woman is a feminist, and she does have that career is the priority, and it's all about her, and she's constantly pushing him to do more, and he's having a tough time keeping up with that. With a Filipina, I don't find that to be true. I find that just their general demeanor, the way that they've been raised, their moral compass, their religious background is much more grounded than an American woman. And I'm not painting this with a broad stroke. I'm not saying all. I'm not saying all Filipinas, and I'm not saying all American women. I'm saying the majority. And you take the Filipina out of the Philippines, plant her in America. She now has opportunities to work. She has all these opportunities to take advantage of a nicer lifestyle. I think it really just boils down to her own character, her own moral compass. If I could find a statistic on this, I would share it with you. But there is no such statistic that I can find. But I'm of the humble opinion, this is just my opinion, and you know what those are like. Everybody's got one. And if I was able to Google and find out the divorce rate between an American man and a Filipino woman, I would put it well below that 50% mark. I have one example. My friend that I talked to has a brother that's married to a Filipina, and this guy is a total slob. He is rude, crude, not that sharp. He's lazy. He speaks to his woman like she's a dog. He does everything short of get physical with her, but he cusses her out. She can't do anything right. And so, guess what? She makes 80% of the household income, where his little disability check contributes 20%. And yet, she goes to work, comes straight home, and takes care of him. That's just the part of her core being, and that's what makes her her. So, I can't wait for the day to come, and it won't be in the near future, because we've still got a lot of other things to do in the meantime. But there will come a day where I initially take my wife to America as a tourist. And we will go in there and we'll bounce around for a month. Right now, I can't afford it. Inflation is so psycho in America, And while inflation is high here, just the price comparisons are off the hook. And I've talked to guys, how much is a burger? How much is a dozen eggs? How much is a rental car? And it's just not in the budget to go today. But at some point in the future, hopefully inflation will tampen down in the States. I'll be able to take May over there. Airline tickets hopefully will be cheaper. And we'll be able to go bounce around for a month. And hopefully my father is still there to meet her and greet her. My kids can meet her. I can show her some of the sights, let her get a taste of America. I'm sure it would thrill her to no end. I'd take her up to Mount Charleston if we went to Vegas and show her the snow and let her get that out of her system. And I think we would have just an awesome time. And then come back here, regroup, and the master plan, as I try to be as forward-thinking as possible, is that because of my medical care, I have Medicare and Part A and Part B, there is going to come a time where I'm going to need some sort of medical treatment that would probably be best suited in the States. So I'm actually thinking about looking at buying a place in America as opposed to buying a place here. I'm 50-50 on that right now. I tend to change my mind a lot. But I'm very pragmatic, and I try to keep all options open. And I try to think, 10 years down the road, and how can I get May in there where if that is the situation, that she could get her green card, eventually citizenship, and then when she reaches her retirement age, she would qualify then for my benefits. And at that point in time, she could stay in America, or she could come back to the Philippines, or do whatever the hell she wants. I don't know. I'm dead. Now, I'll end on this, which is kind of cold-blooded. But if I took May, if I'm wrong about all this, and I took little baby May over to America, and she better dealed me, well, I have to confess that I would be sad. I would be long in the tooth, and most of all, I would be surprised that I was just so wrong and such a poor judge of character. But my opinion is, for me and for anybody else that might happen to, either here or there, if a woman leaves you for some other guy, my reaction to this, and it sounds cold-blooded, is good riddance. The only real waste was the 4.5, 5, 6, 10 years that you spent with that person where they really were not the person that you thought they were. And so would I be sad? Yeah. Would I be a little on the downside? Yeah. Would I be suicidal? No. Would I go into a deep depression? No. It's not my first rodeo. And so I would be the guy that would go through his mourning period of that happening, probably be embarrassed by it, but as usual, I would just pick myself back up and start all over again. Either make the conscious decision to just stay single and not even pursue another relationship, or see what happens. I came over here with a whole different mindset 6 years ago, and it's completely 180 since I've gotten here now 6 years. All right, so that's my take on it. That's what I think, why I would take, and I would have no qualms whatsoever of taking her there either as a tourist just to look around and or for a long-term committed stay. All right, look forward to your comments. I know they're coming. See you in the next video.